Hello friends, welcome to the segment Symbolic Expression, and in the studio we have with us Manisha Sharma. And as I told you in the earlier lecture, we talked about Hindi films as well as the Hrishikesh Mukherjee, so we will continue in the same lecture in the second part as well, the kind of films which were made by Hrishikesh Mukherjee and how the cinema which was made by Hrishikesh Mukherjee has found some kind of an important place in the annals of the Indian cinema, because his films, they were relating to the day-to-day reality, and at the same time the kind of film stars which were cast in his films, they were able to do some kind of a justice to their roles as well. We find that, as I told you in the earlier films, that he made a film called Musafir in 1950s, and thereafter he also made a film called Anari, and thereafter his other films called Anand as well and Mili, and both of them, they relate to the theme of life and death. And he also tries to convey the value systems and the declining values in the Indian society in a film called Satyakam as well. And when we were talking in the first part, we were talking about a film called Guddi, and how Guddi was also in a way related to the day-to-day reality, in the sense that how when she is believing in some kind of a make-believe world which is not real, and how his uncle plays an important role to bring her out from that make-believe world. And when she realizes that what is happening in the film world, in the real world, is not the real things, then her respect for Dharmendra grows in that sense, because he is the one who is trying to convey to her in that sense that how they are all human beings, they are not superhumans in any way, and they are living with the same kinds of fears as well as insecurities as well. Another film which I'd like to talk about, which we do not find any kind of a violence or obscenity, and this is reflective in many of the films which were made by Hrishikesh Mukherjee, rather all the films which were made by him, that we do not find any kind of undue violence as well as any kind of an obscenity in his films. And we find that how a film called Bawarchi, which was made in 1972, and it talks about spreading the family values and the morals in the context of the society, and how that particular family is being shown as a divided family. And when Rajesh Khanna comes to that family, he is a person who has been employed as a servant of the family, and he realizes that how the members, those who are living together, but their hearts, they are totally scattered in different directions. And we also find that Rajesh Khanna tries to bring them all together, as he had already seen that how families, they were being divided in nature, and he decides to use his knowledge to in a way stop this kind of a disintegration of the families, because what we find that over a period of time the joint families, they declined, and the decline of the joint families has been one of the reasons where we find that how the elders of the family, they have to fend for themselves, and the children, they do not get the kind of love of their elder ones, those who are the grandparents, etc. So this kind of problems in the joint families, which are reflective of the kind of mistrust which is there, which was shown in this particular film as well. And we find that apart from Rajesh Khanna, the acting of Jaya Baduri, who is the focus of the grandfather's life, and her sincerity and understanding and the positivity, despite the fact that she is being denied so many things in comparison to her younger sister, they convey that how one can overcome all sorts of odds in the life when one is more resolute and sincere and has some kind of a positivity in life. And this film was also some kind of a inspiration for a film which was made later with Govinda as hero number one. Apart from that, we in 1970s only, in the context of the human relationships, we find that there was a film called Abhiman, which was made in 1973, which is trying to convey the kind of misunderstandings and ego between husband and wife, and it is also trying to convey the kind of position of women in the society, that how women, they are to be seen as some sort of an appendage of men. They are not equal to man in that way, and the kind of compromises which one has to make in terms of life as well, which is also being shown in this particular film. It also in a way tries to convey the ideas of male ego, pride and chauvinism, and we also find that if in this particular film we find that if the couple are from the same kind of a field, and if the wife becomes comparatively more famous than the husband, so it might ignite some kind of a jealousy among the male counterpart, as well as we also find that the issue of the issue of patriarchal system of society, which is being shown in the film, because the male pride and chauvinism is central to this idea that the man has to be in a way more improved, or maybe ahead of his wife in every way. And this film in a way tries to show that the woman of the house is comparatively more talented than the male or the husband. So this kind of a human relationship of the husband and wife was conveyed in this film. And we also find that Raju Bhartans talked about that the film story was based on the life of Kishore Kumar and his first wife Ruma Ghosh. And we also see that in this film, which had so many songs, and how some of these songs, they became so much popular. And Piya Bina was one of the songs which became quite popular, and another song was Ab to hai tumse har khushi apni. All these songs they were quite popular, and which were sung by many of them, they were sung by Lata Mangeshkar. And we also find, apart from this, there was another film called Namak Haram, which was made in 1973, in which we find that the issue of the workers and the capitalist was being raised. And Amitabh Bachchan and Rajesh Khanna, they play the role of good friends. Amitabh Bachchan is very rich, and Rajesh Khanna is shown to be very poor in the film. And how Rajesh Khanna tries to help Amitabh Bachchan when Amitabh Bachchan picks up a fight with a union leader, and Rajesh Khanna goes to the factory, and he tries to project that he is one among them, and he says that he will also become a union leader, and he will make the union weak, so that Amitabh Bachchan may not face any kind of an issue in terms of the kind of politics which is involved in the factory setup. And when he goes there, and when he becomes one of the union leaders, then we find that there is some kind of a change of heart of Rajesh Khanna, and he realizes that the kind of problems which are being faced by these people, those who are going to rich, those who are from the labor class, those who are going to mill to work in the capitalist setup. And we also find that Om Shivpuri, who is the father of Amitabh in this film, is a true capitalist who is ready to exploit all the workers. And we could also try to position this particular film on the rise of the unions in the backdrop of the Bombay's textile mills and inflation in early 1970s. And we could also in a way try to see the film in the context of the kind of class conflict and the distinctions which are there in the society, and how in a way some kind of a stereotyping is being done to the people, those who belong to the different strata of the society. And the issue of the betrayal is paramount in that sense, that who is betrayed and by whom one is feeling betrayed. And as I told you that we talked about a film called Anand in a similar manner, another film called Milli, where Jaya Bhaduri plays the role of a girl who has been diagnosed with pernicious anemia, which is considered to be untreatable in nature, and how she is being shown as an inquisitive, energetic girl, and her relationship with Amitabh Bachchan is being shown in the film in the context of the kind of family background and of Amitabh Bachchan. And there is some kind of sensitivity to the entire film, and the philosophy of the life in the context of life and death as the ultimate truth is again being shown in this film, and how it draws some kind of parallels with Anand in that sense could also be seen. We also find that, as I told you, that in some other films like Alap, which was made by Hrishikesh Mukherjee, and where the idealism of Amitabh Bachchan is being shown in the film Alap, where he is ready to sacrifice everything for the kind of passion which he has for the music. Similarly, another film called Arjun Pandit, which was made by Hrishikesh Mukherjee, and Arjun Pandit is again dealing with the issue of honesty in one's life, and how Sanjeev Kumar in that particular film is being shown to be an honest person, and his honesty, commitment, sincerity and dedication to Ashok Kumar in this particular film, and to the truth as well, it makes it some kind of a remarkable film. Apart from that, Hrishikesh Mukherjee also delve into the comedy films as well, and we find that there was a film called Chupke Chupke, which was made in 1975, and the story as goes that how Dharmendra is jealous of the kind of appreciation of his brother-in-law Om Prakash by his wife Sharmila Tagore, and there he goes disguises as a driver, and he goes there, and some kind of an issue with regard to the using of the standard language, that how Hindi is to be used or English is to be used, whether they are to be used in standardized ways. All that has also been shown in this, and as we know that language definitely plays an important role in the lives of people. So whether one should stick to standard language or one should work in the day-to-day language, that has also been the focus of this particular film. As I told you that he also engaged in some of the films which though did not do very well on the box office front, but these films they were also quite relevant in the context that there was a film called Jhuti which he made in 1985, and in this film the idea of truth is again shown, where we find that Rekha is being shown as a person who is constantly engaged in conveying untruth or lies. So the importance of truth as a value system is also being communicated in this particular film as well. We find that another very popular comedy film which was made by Rishi Kapoor, where we find that the Golmaal, which was made in 1979, and this film basically also talks about the middle class values and the kind of sensibility which the middle class has, and it was a situational comedy where we do not find any over the top comedy, and how the characters they are also being shown to be the real life characters, and the film also communicates the idea that the clothes of a person or the mustache, they do not define people. People, they are being defined by the kind of work ethic, by the kind of characters which they have, rather than the kind of cloth, mustache or any other kind of a thing which they wear. We also see that this film is also talking about in the framework of that how girls they have this kind of a capacity to take their own decisions, where Bindya Goswami is being shown as a woman who can take her own decisions in terms of marrying someone, and Utpal Dutt is being shown as some sort of a conservative father who is not ready to let her take her own decisions, and he thinks that he is the one who will be able to decide the best thing for her. We also find that in the similar vein there was another film called Khoobsurat which was made in 1980, and the story where we find that how Deena Pathak is shown to be disciplinarian, and how she runs her household on certain rules and regulation, and Rekha is to be shown as some person who is playful and a naughty girl, and how Rekha, who becomes a member of that particular family because her sister is married into that family, and she is able to win the hearts of everyone except Deena Pathak. And when Ashok Kumar gets the heart attack, Rekha is able to manage the entire house. So certain questions they are being raised in the particular film, that how Deena Pathak is being shown as a patriarchal in a patriarchal framework, that though she is the mother, but at the same time the norms of patriarchy, they function in that manner, that she is the patriarch of the family, and her decision and her decisions, they are to be followed by every member of the society, and they also have to follow the rules. And it also tries to project the question of responsibility, that how Rekha is being shown as a playful and a naughty girl, but at the same time she is educated and she is also responsible as well. And when Ashok Kumar is in crisis, then she is single-handedly able to control the entire situation. Even she scolds the doctor who was not ready to come and treat Ashok Kumar. So that way, these kinds of questions with regard to the behavior of a woman, the issue of responsibility, and how this kind of a family harmony is to be achieved, they are being talked in this particular film as well. Then apart from that, we also find the question of women's decision in another film, where Swaroop Sampath, Amol Palekar, Utpal Dutt and Shatrughan Sinha, all of them, they acted in a film called Naram Garam, and how Amol Palekar helps Swaroop Sampath and her father to provide shelter. And later we find both of them, Utpal Dutt as well as Shatrughan Sinha, they have this kind of a desire to marry Swaroop Sampath, who belong to a poor family. So such kind of questions, they are being raised in the film, that if a girl belongs to a poor family, then does she have any kind of a choice in terms of making her own decisions in the context of marriage, or it is up to the males in the society, those who have money, those who have power, those who have the kind of resources, that they will in a way decide about the kind of things which are to be done for this particular section of society, that is which is half the section of society, the women of the society. Such kind of questions, they were also being raised in other films of Hrishikesh Mukherjee, where we find that a film called Kisi Se Na Kehna in 1983, and the issue of prejudice against the westernized girls and the English language could be seen in this particular film. And Utpal Dutt does not want his son to get married to a girl who knows English, and he wants that girl should be traditional in nature. And how both of them in a way trick Utpal Dutt, and Utpal Dutt finally sees that both of them, they get married, but he does not know that the girl is educated, she is a doctor and she knows English as well. So these kinds of ideas, though they are being communicated through the idea of comedy, but at the same time they in a way raise such kind of questions about the education of women and the kind of responsibility, sense of responsibility which they can shoulder. Apart from that, we also see that he raises questions regarding the value in the medical profession, and medical profession is to be considered so pious in the society. And in a film called Bemisal, we find that he raises these kinds of questions, where Amitabh Bachchan is being shown as an idealist doctor, and how he sacrifices his love for Rakhi for Vinod Mehra, whose father had raised him. And he also repays the debt of Vinod Mehra when Vinod Mehra was being caught in medical malpractice. So Amitabh Bachchan takes the entire responsibility of that kind of a malpractice which was conducted by him. So he is raising that question, that medical profession should not have such kind of malpractices, because people, they are in a way have that kind of a faith on the doctors, where doctors are considered to be next to God that way. So such kind of issues, they were being raised by Hrishikesh Mukherjee in his films. And he also attempted another comedy in 1998 with Jhoot Bole Kaua Kaate, and this film again we talk is some sort of a situational comedy, and this film is trying to convey some kind of a traditional and the orthodox attitude of the patriarch of the house, played by Amrish Puri. and how Anil Kapoor creates a series of lies in this film so that he can marry Juhi Chawla, who is the lady love. And we find that the kind of contribution which has been made by Hrishikesh Mukherjee spanning years, beginning from 1950s till his last film, which was made in 1998, Jhoot Bole Kaua Kaate, and the kind of recognition which he got from different channels, whether from the public, which accepted the kind of films which were made by him, by the government, who awarded him on different occasions. Even a stamp was launched on Hrishikesh Mukherjee. So we find that his contribution has been immense in the framework that he was not only concerned in the context of directing films, but many a times we find that he was closely concerned with in the composition of the music, in terms of interacting with the music directors in that context, or even in the screenplay writing, that how Gulzar was closely associated with him, and how both of them they were closely connected with the script writing or storytelling. So we find that the kind of cinema which has been made by Hrishikesh Mukherjee is quite relevant in today's context as well, and all the films which have been made by him, they convey some kind of a meaning to the society. And as I told you, that Musafir, Anand and Mili, they talk about the imminence of death and the charm of life. Similarly, we find that the main issues of the society when India became independent in 1950s, and when he started making films was 1957, when he came with his first film. So he was witness to the partition of India as well as the independence of India. And he also had that kind of an aspiration which was reflected in his films as well. We find that how the question of class distinctions, that was there in the society as well. And this kind of a distinction could be seen in films like Anuradha, Namak Haram, as I told you. And apart from that, there was a film called Anupama, which was directed by him, in which Dharmendra and Sharmila Tagore, both of them, they acted. And Anupama also tries to convey that kind of an issue, which is again the issue of the class distinctions. And we also find that how the issue of comedy and the laughter, which is so central to everyone's life, was also communicated in many of the films which were made by him, whether it was Golmaal or Chupke Chupke. And this kind of a laughter or humor could be seen even in serious films like Anand as well as Mili, where we had certain scenes where you will find that both Asrani, the way he acted in a film called Mili, or as well as in Chupke Chupke. And another kind of a humor which was being created by Dharmendra and Amitabh Bachchan, though both of these films, they were dealing with very serious issues. We also find that the idea of family unity, that how family is being seen as some kind of a unit in the context of nation as well. So the family unity and the values in the framework of Bawarchi and Khoobsurat, but at the same time they are also communicating the idea of nation building and the national unity as well. And other films like Satyakam or Arjun Pandit, they were there in the framework of the value systems which are there in the society. So with this, I'd like to end the discussion. Thank you very much.